Hello, BookTube. I have a little Friday reads for you today. A handful of books that I will be working on this weekend. One of them you just saw, and it's huge, so it may take up a large chunk of time. I may devote all of Sunday night to this book, or a large chunk of Sunday, as much as I can get through. And we just saw it. It's Against the Day by Thomas Pynchon, which I told myself, and I told you, that it was bothering me. The idea that I had given this somehow less than its due has been bothering me for years. And I just made a promise to myself that the next time I saw it at the Brattle, I would get it and I would reread it. So I will be doing that, and I'm not going to let any time waste. So I'll be rereading it this weekend, or in between other things. So I'm not going to kill myself to get this thing done, especially since I think it might take a long time to reread. But then there are a handful of other books that I definitely want to get to. So these might be the reasons why Against the Day sprawls out into the week. And the first one is by Charles Rosenberg. We've seen it on this channel before. This is the finished copy of The Trial and Execution of the Traitor George Washington. This is a historical alternative history novel in which the British succeed in kidnapping George Washington during the Revolution. They tried and failed, but in this novel they succeed, and he goes on trial, and he's, what would be the effect on him, what would be the effect on the British public, and what especially would be the effect on the American Revolution. And I've read alternate historical novels don't tend usually to do it for me, but I've read some that were really, really good. The Court Martial of George Armstrong Custer comes to mind. What a book. Oh my God. I think I've praised it on this channel before, but it's out of print. I doubt it will ever come back in print, and it is so good. Oh my God, it's so good. And also, what's the name of... I'm blanking on the title of the book. It was by the science fiction author Harry Turtledove, and he imagined an alternate history in which the Confederate Army in the United States, in the American Civil War, got access to assault rifles. What would happen if the Confederates had rifles instead of nothing else changed. They don't have any more people. They don't have any other advanced equipment. They just have that. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, I usually don't like what-if historical fiction because you don't know. You drop one pebble in a pond and you don't know where the rings are going to go and where they're going to overlap. And it starts to become just a guessing game, and that distracts usually from the power of the narrative, in my opinion. Except in the rare instances where it doesn't. But I've had the advanced copy of this for a while and I haven't gotten to it, so I have the very pretty finished copy. I'll be doing that this weekend. Then some of these other things we've seen on this channel that I'm just going to get to. I've got finished copies, so I'll be getting to them this weekend. This is the first one, I Will Be Complete, by Glenn David Gould, the novelist, the author of Carter Beats the Devil and Sunnyside. This is a big, sprawling memoir of his that, from the description, sounds like it won't be just, and then I went to the library, and then the next day I went to the library. It sounds like he had a very picaresque life, so much as I would like to see, ideally, much as I would like to see all the effort and time that went into writing this book go instead into another novel by Glenn David Gould, I will definitely take this and see what it's like. Then the next one is by Malcolm Nance. Some of you will know him as he's a frequent talking head commentator on cable news channels, and this is The Plot to Destroy Democracy, which is subtitled How Putin and His Spies Are Undermining America and Dismantling the West. The word that I've had about this book is that it ranges on a lot more subjects than that it isn't just about that. It's about a lot of other besetting ills in 2018 America. But we shall see. He's a pretty smart guy, so I'm willing to read anything that he writes. And then this other one we've seen before. We saw it just recently. This is a collection of the occasional work and deadline prose of Robert Gottlieb. It's called Near-Death Experiences, and it's all kinds of writing about, so-and-so has a new book. You write a New York Review style essay, which is part book review, but also part career overview, part deeper digging. He was very good. He's very good at that sort of thing. And I've read, I think, probably all of these pieces before, but I'm reading them all together. I often do this with authors when they come out with a collection like this. I'll even if I've pulled and collected their writings over the years, reading them all together gives you a different feel. Instead of concentrating on the subject, this 5,000 words you did on Philip Roth or whatever, when you read them all together in their inevitable book collection, you instead start to concentrate on the voice and talent, the techniques of the writer, of Robert Gottlieb instead of his subject. And I like that shift. That's always fun for me to go through. And then the last one, I don't know if these 6 books are the sum total of what I will do this weekend, but these are definitely on the docket. And the last one is also something we've seen on this channel before. I got an advance copy, and I am determined to go at it with an open mind, despite not liking this author's previous book, and that is this, History of Violence, by Edouard Louis, and this is the English language translation of a book that he wrote, which is, again, like The End of Eddie, his first book, it's heavily autobiographical. It's really auto-fiction, and I typically don't like that. It typically strikes me as lazy, and also entitled. This book narrates a tragedy that happened to the author, a violent act that was committed against him. If it's autofiction, that seems like the author is trying to steal a move on critics, both publishing formal critics and any reader who reads it and doesn't like it. It feels like you're trying to steal a move on them by saying that this is not subject to criticism. Because, of course, if Edouard Louis sat down across from you in your living room and told you the horrific story of how he was raped and almost murdered, you would not finish his recounting of those events and say, well, that was horrifying, but I thought the narrative strength in the middle section was a little lagging. You wouldn't do that, of course, because your human sympathies would be involved. And I always consider that move a little bit dirty pool, because this is not a conversation. This is a book. And it's, once you launch it into the world, once this is no longer a private document that you send around to friends to explain what happened to you, once you launch it into the public world, it becomes legitimately vulnerable to criticism, no matter how personal it is. If you choose to call it a novel, but make it explicitly point-by-point autobiographical, then the mercenary part of me, the professional critic part of me, wants to say, you'd better be sure that you're living your life with dramatic cohesion. Because most people don't. That's why we write novels instead of autobiographies. And if you think that because you have broadcast that this has actually happened to you, that gets this book a get-out-of-jail-free card, you are wrong. You are mistaken. And I'm willing to appear heartless in order to keep that barrier up. But one way or another, those are some of my initial reservations, but I have not read this, and his previous book, The End of Eddie, did not please me, but this one might. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm hoping that today or tomorrow, I asked a friend to send me the French version. I'm hoping that today or tomorrow that arrives so that I can sort of have them both at hand when I'm reading it. But anyway, that is my Friday Reads, or at least the bare-bones skeleton of it. And as usual, I want to know what yours are, so feel free. Fill the comments. Let's talk books for the rest of the day. And I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.